Alright, quick garden diary, July 8th. Gotta make this fast. I probably shouldn't have watered, but I did this morning, a little late. I got Hubbard squash coming in. My cucumbers are coming in. It seems a little behind, but they're doing good. These little guys are still flitting around, and they are still not bothering my cabbage. That's cabbage right there. And that cabbage moth and all of his buddies over there completely bypassed it. So we're doing good on the intercropping and protecting of the cabbage from the cabbage moths. That's doing really good. Brussels sprouts are in here. Jalapenos are coming along. These tomatoes are going, these are just volunteers and they're going insane. These are doing really nice. These summer squashes, it's growing upward, which is interesting. I've never had one that does that. But this is one thing I got. This is a volunteer, I think, this is a volunteer from last year. This is a grape tomato, a yellow grape tomato we grew from I got my shadow in there. I have my shadow in there because it's really just for me. And if anybody else watches it, well, then that's great. Anyway, this is just a volunteer from last year, and this thing is like 3 or 4 foot long, about 2.5, 3 foot tall. It's huge. And there's hundreds of flowers on it, and this is just in compost, standing next to a sunflower that also volunteered. I planted more of these intentionally. Had I known this thing was going to pop up, I never would have bothered, because this is going to probably keep us in tomatoes for our salads for the whole summer. Anyway, the whole purpose of this is I'm running an experiment. So I've been reading a lot and learning a lot. I've planted probably about 40 pounds of seed potatoes. I can't tell you how many that actually translated into as far as plants. But I'd been looking because these things were mammoth, like they're huge. And I mean, we're talking armpit high, and I don't know, 4'3" maybe. I don't know how tall I am. So anyway, I asked around on my homesteading groups. I looked at a lot of videos, and nothing really tells you what normal is. And so I asked my homesteading group, and then of course people are like, oh, you need to hill, you need to this, well, then there's other places that are people that say you don't hill, hilling doesn't do anything. I had another gal say that she pulls, when they start flowering, she pulls the flowers off so that it puts energy back down into the tubers. I had another guy saying don't fertilize, which I don't. Basically these are put in a big row of compost from last year that I let finish just setting and settling down throughout the winter. Threw some ash from the fireplace in it, in the trenches, threw the potatoes in, covered them up, done. I've looked under, I did put a little bit of a mulch layer of straw in here. And really, there's only a couple that are poking up through. I've stuck my finger down, and there are potatoes growing. So that's, I know they're in there and they're growing. So anyway, nobody really had a straight answer. A lot of people said, well, a lot of green doesn't necessarily mean a lot of potatoes, because the plant's putting all of its energy into the green. Which is why the one gal clips the flowers, because if it's producing flowers, then the plant's putting energy into the flowers and not into the tubers, which is what we want, the tubers. So I started coming through the other day and cutting off the flowers. And then I'm sitting here this morning and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to run an experiment, and it's really, the controlled experiment is more on this patch right here, and I got to trim it just a little bit. This is called Upstate Abundance, and there's probably, 50 or 60 plants in here. So I took half of it, and I'm going to take the flowers, just the flowers, which something has actually been eating on these. These are obviously not a strong plant, because these are getting chewed on by something. Maybe, I don't know, that little guy, I don't know what he is. And these are barely getting chewed on, and these are russets and can't remember, purple Peruvian. These are upstate abundance. They're getting chewed on. Even their flowers are getting chewed off. So I took these and I cut half of them down. I cut 2 rows down and left 2 rows up to see if the 2 rows that I cut down work in the same facet, because they're in the same family as tomatoes. And the theory with tomatoes is you trim the green so that you get more energy put into fruit production than the green into the leaves. So I'm doing this controlled experiment with these to see if that actually works for the potatoes as well. So half of them are trimmed, just the flowers. The other half are trimmed flowers and leaves. And I probably trimmed a good almost foot off of these on that side, and it's kind of maybe hard to see in video. I don't know if I can get back to get a good look. So this is an experiment. So we'll see what happens with this. The other experiment that I did that's proving to be pretty good, and I'll have to show later, but I did plant garlic that sat in a bag in my garage all winter. I did music and German white. And I pulled a bulb of music to see how it was doing, because the leaves aren't really dying off quite yet. But I pulled one and it's got four cloves on it. So it sat in my garage all winter. It thought that it went through winter, and it did start to bulb. And instead of having just a single bulb, it did get cloves. So yes, you can leave it in your garage in a bag if you get it late or whatever. Just make sure it stays dry, and just leave it in the bag in your garage and plant it as soon as you can in the spring. And that worked. So that was awesome. So that was experiment 1. That's kind of complete. I haven't checked the German garlic yet, only the music, because the music is the one that I really wanted to look at. And I did get my fence up so these guys can be out and not interfere with my garden. That was a bit. So not an experiment there, just, horses eating next to sweet potatoes, which there's about 50 some sweet potatoes. And off she goes. The bugs are getting her. She says, "I'm out of here, lady. I'm going back in the barn where there's no bugs." And these guys are tougher than that. She has no tail. Anyway, so that's the experiment. We're going to see. We still have a few months yet to let these grow. I'm loving that these cabbage moths are flying everywhere and pollinating for me and not chewing up my cabbage and my cauliflower. So still happy with that experiment as well. So garden diary, July 8th, and we'll see where the rest of it ends up here in a couple more weeks. Oh, he found my cabbage. Oh, no, he's not on my cabbage. Somebody found my cabbage. It might have been that bunny. All right, he's not touching my cabbage. We're okay.